Good afternoon, everybody. This is Morten from INKISH. I have a tremendous great pleasure and honor talking to Dario, who's the CEO of Gallus today. Dario, very much warm welcome here on INKISH.
Thank you very much.
I hope you're well. I have to ask you the first question, of course, is that last week I think a lot of us got the surprising message that Ferdinand Rueesch III, I think is number 3 in the row, is retiring, and at the end of the year, I think it is. I mean, you have been with Gallus at least 2 rounds, and now as a CEO. How does that influence your work, and what was your reaction when you got the message?
Well, I mean, Ferdi has a tremendous achievement in our industry over decades. And of course, having him on board over the last few years, when I returned to Gallus, was fantastic. He was always a coach, and he's still here until end of this year. He was a coach, a mentor. He sometimes pushed a little bit to the right, to the left, and gave all of us in the management team, based on his decade-long experience, some hints and some help and support. And of course, it's the move of time, the run of time, that somebody which has invested decades of his life into the printing industry, at one point in time decides to take care more of his family. He's turning 65 years, and that's his well-deserved right to enjoy his pension, of course.
No question of that. I was just wondering, because I mean, I think that one of the first time I spoke to him, I was a little bit surprised in a positive way, because he is, as you mentioned, a big name in the industry, but he always seems to be more interested in the role where he was facing customers all the time. And I guess that must have been interesting from the rest of you, that you have a senior in your organization that really likes to having time with the customers and having an understanding of their needs, right?
Oh, he was a great help over all these years. As I just said, he has the right to move into his retirement with 65 years, and for me it's a bit too early now to shed tears, because it's only beginning of the year, and he's around until end of this year in his role as Senior Vice President Key Account for Gallus. And we will take care, of course, that we hand over his relationship to the customers to the best hands we have on board.
Fantastic. Another thing I would like to talk to you about, and that is because, as I mentioned just before we started the recording, I was at the HP pre-Drupa event last week in Indianapolis. And one of the things that was a little bit of an interest for me was that the management of HP said that they believe that label production within the next 20 years will be 100% digital. And I thought, I mean, as Gallus are producing both digital and analog equipment, I thought that maybe you have a different perspective, or how do you see that?
No, I certainly see that digital, with regards to inkjet, as we see digital, has become a very mature technology. The spectrum of what you can use this technology for has definitely been expanding over the last couple of years. However, I believe that there is still also room for conventional technologies. There are reasons driven by application or substrate or end user demands, which also are in favor, or speaking in favor for conventional. It's not just everything digital. And for us, we do not really like to play those technologies against each other. We think that's complementary technologies. The shift of what you might use the technology for might be moving more towards digital as the technology is further evolving. But I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know what's in 20 years from now. I certainly believe that for the forthcoming time, there are reasons for conventional technology to be used in the printing and packaging industry.
I was also thinking that often in my background is in the commercial printing industry, but I think that when you invest in machines, it's not unheard of that you have depreciation times or even operational machines that last for 10, 15, 20 years. So therefore, the prediction is maybe that the sales can change into more and more digital equipment, but I think that analog equipment will be around for a very long time. So that was why I was a little bit curious when they said so, and then of course they sell only digital, so they have of course an interest in promoting digital only. And talk about digital only, one of the things that you have been showing as Gallus for some time now is the Gallus One. I think you presented for the first time at the Label Expo in Brussels, right? Or did you have it also in Label Expo in Chicago? I can't remember. But that is like a digital framework that has got quite a lot of interest from the converters, right?
Well, it's a bit too early because we will unveil some fantastic production concept and products at Drupa. But obviously, as you have seen, we transported the digital technology towards the Label Master platform. And the Label Master platform is available in different web widths, and the Label Master platform has an extended range of additional functionalities besides of digital as we have it today. You have upstream possibilities, downstream possibilities, you have all the embellishing, all the converting. Obviously, we are building something which is much larger than just a digital machine by allowing customers to select technologies suiting their needs and specifying a machine driving down their TCO with their jobs. And at the same time, we incorporated smart connected printing. And smart connected printing for us is a way about how we think about how we should run our industry in the future. And smart connected printing describes it already in its wording. It should be intelligent, it should be AI incorporated, it should be connected, and it should be on the way forward to utilize all the modern technologies to really drive down total cost of ownership and ultimately also with the highest level of automation.
So if I understand you correctly, we have to split it a little bit like that. You have the hardware side and of course then you have the software side. If you look at the hardware side, what you refer to is what many refer to as the hybrid machines, where you can basically tailor the machines and configure it to the specific needs a converter has, right? On the software side, I mean, I know it's a buzzword using AI, but I also know, of course, it has real substance. How do you utilize AI in order to make your customers more productive?
Look, AI at the end of the day is big data where you put some algorithms on top. I mean, that's essentially what we are doing, especially in our industry. So,
but it sounds so good to saying AI, right?
It sounds very good. But at the end of the day, it's big data sets which you previously were not really be able to, harvest on one side and on the other side work with it. And AI or the algorithms we are building, par example for smart production managers, par example with our mother company, parent company Heidelberg, with the Heidelberg customer portal, and all those additional technologies in the software environment allows you to steer your production in a more efficient way, to minimize changeover times, to optimize production time, to have a better accessibility of software data, workflow systems, and so forth. So, you are right. Hybrid printing is referring to, in the large scale, to the hardware as such. But smart connected printing, how we see it, is more a combination, an ecosystem, a 360-degree round view about our printing industry, where you really incorporate hardware and software and workflow in the best possible way.
Is that something where you believe that it is big differentiator for Gallus in how you see this? Because I mean, you also have experience for some other players in the industry, and I was just wondering if you see this as a unique thing for Gallus, or do you think it is an industry trend?
I think we as an industry, we need to evolve towards that direction. And I mean, if you look back the last decades in our industry, we had these technological S-curves, right? Where you start at the bottom left, and then you evolve during a learning curve, and then it flattens because there are not so many incremental steps forward necessary anymore, because you basically you did whatever you could with that set of technology. And we started with SPS, then we went with servo, and then we went into the technology curve of digital. And I still personally believe in the digital S-curve. There is more potential forward. We have not yet really utilized all the technology on hand to really drive the business forward to the maximum extent. And then the next technology S-curve is coming, and people are wondering what might be this next S-curve. And I personally convinced that this next S-curve is not necessarily a printing technology per se, but I believe the next S-curve is ecosystem. Interconnecting technologies, software, hardware, and building a smart ecosystem for smart connected printing.
Does that mean that the relationship between the converter and the converter's customer, and also back to the OEM, needs to be, let's say, built in a way that is way tighter than you typically see today?
No, if you talk
about the entire ecosystem, I was just thinking that ecosystem, you cannot just say that an ecosystem is the printer or the supplier. It needs to be, as you say, the 360 degrees is basically almost every stakeholder, right?
Well, first and foremost, what you need is transparency about costs. It's not possible to calculate the proper total cost of ownership involving all aspects of a technology, of a printing environment, without having the necessary transparency about the costs. And then you're right. I mean, up to a certain point, you need to incorporate different elements of technology into an ultimate total cost of ownership calculation. Only then you are able to have transparency and the true cost on the table, what the set of technology actually costs and brings at the end of the day. And I think the ultimate goal for us is to drive down total cost of ownership. And we started with that in the development cycle of the Gallus I, where we really, together with our customers, we started investigating cost elements in their production, in the shop floor, but also in terms of workflow and associated costs in general and administration environment. And we started with a sensitivity analytics. So to really figure out which screw do you need to turn on the left or on the right side in order to drive down TCO, because you need to figure out what do you actually need to influence, what element of technology, what element of automation, what element of energy consumption really has the largest impact on costs. And based on that, we built a model. And we learned quite a lot during that process, because we did it together with customers and partners. And based on that, we are driving our current running innovation cycle to really upgrade the technology we have on hand to drive down total cost of ownership.
Sounds like a good plan. I was thinking that sometimes when a company talks about total cost of ownership, I think it's great also because I think that it may move the conversation away from the single elements in a calculation. For example, let's say that the ink becomes more expensive, but the machine has less labor, for example, right? Then the total cost of ownership will still be lower, but that single element might be more expensive. I guess that is also important in that conversation with your customers, instead of just saying that, okay, here we have the hardware price and here we have the consumable price. I mean, to get that ecosystem right? Yeah,
you need to compare apple with apple.
Precisely, yeah.
Some discuss about ink price. That's fair enough. Ink has a cost per liter or per ton. That's perfectly fine. But at the end of the day, you also need to calculate the TIC, total ink coverage, because some inks, they got a little bit more pigmentation in it and some got lesser pigmentation in it. So in order to achieve the same optic effect or the same outcome in your printing, you need more or less ink. And that's also something you need to consider in your total cost of ownership, because not every ink is the same. And the same is with machinery, the same is with software and so forth. So you need a little bit more analytics and a little bit more academic power in the whole development cycle in order to understand what do you actually need to improve in what direction in order to achieve the desired outcome.
Changing a little bit subject, but maybe in the same area anyway. If you look at the market, Gallus is a global supplier. Is the market stable or growing or falling? If you look at, let's say, the number of converters or the numbers of machines in market, or how do you see that?
Well, overall, the printing and packaging industry, specifically label, which we oversee, is in its fundamentals still a growing market. We can see that all the metrics, they show that. Now in the recent months or 12 months, we had a bit of dip because, circumstance been not as stable anymore, and we just came out of a pandemic and a post-pandemic recovery period. And on top of that, we had some increase in cost of capital and, inflation now and then. And we have a geopolitical environment which is less stable than it used to be previous of to 2019. Having said that, still, we have a growing market in its fundamentals. And just because in short-term view there is the one or other dip or the one or other distortion in the markets, that doesn't mean that the general market doesn't really work forward in the desired way. So we believe that the labels market, as we see, packaging market, is still a growing environment.
I totally agree with you, and I think that the geopolitical issues, of course, cannot be underestimated, because it gives that uncertainty on demand. It gives uncertainty on supply chain and all the things that we have gone through, both with the COVID and maybe especially with labor difficulties and the war in Ukraine and Israel and things like that. I mean, so there's a lot of things that, of course, plays a role in this. I think it's also good to have that optimism, because if you have an optimism, of course, based on your knowledge and figures, but that also means that they can keep a healthy investment in the new technologies, because as with everything else, as also in the digital transformation, I believe that it is important to focus on R&D and make sure that you can keep developing the technology according to how the market is shifting. When you look at Gallus as a company, I was just about to ask if you have enough money for R&D, because I don't think that any company will ever say yes to that. But do you think that the ratio between R&D and the developments in the market is, in general, with you, finally aligned, or is it a paradigm shift now? Because I mean, you spoke yourself about the hybrid machines and the digital machines. So I was just wondering if this is a huge investment period as well.
So to answer your question, of course, we would like to have more money for our
Never enough, right?
Look, it's not anymore like in the good old times when you wanted to develop a new machine system, you had to weld together a few steel plates and a few gearboxes and the one or other motor, and you have the one or other upgrade, and you developed a new triangle for the flexo printing station, and you improved something. That was the good old time. Today, to really generate innovation on the fundamental level, as we are doing it right now, really driving forward the industry in smart connected printing, really pushing forward for integrating technologies to drive the next technological S-curve, which is the ecosystem. It got more expensive to build such innovation, because it's not just mechatronic, it's also software, and it's a lot more testing, and it's ink and chemistry and top coating and all these things. As such, of course, you need to be embedded in a larger company. because you need to have the resources. And resources is not just money. Resources is also people.
No, there's also
to really
human,
execute the ideas. And we are embedded in the Heidelberg organization, which is a much larger organization than Gallus was standalone in the past. And for us, it is really beneficial to have the possibility to work together with our parent company, also in the field of driving forward innovation and having access to the necessary resources.
So that does mean that the let's say the relationship with your parent company Heidelberg and in the R&D, because you can still share a lot of, let's say, resources and humans and all these kind of things in order to benefit each of the segments that the Heidelbergs and it's you're not a subsidiary to Heidelberg anymore, but you're like owned by Heidelberg.
We are owned by Heidelberg, 100%.
Owned by So basically, so what you say is that taking advantage of the mother, you can basically take advantage that you have, like, let's say, an ink research department, or you have somebody who's working specifically on print heads or whatever it is. So that is what you can share technology on, basically.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you look at Gallus as a company with a couple hundred of people, doing the mechatronic and the software and the ink and the application development and the inkjet heads and all the testing environment and all this, it would be a bit too much for Gallus alone. We would not be able to execute the plans we have completely on our own, and that's why we enjoy a very good relationship with our mother, with the Heidelberg Group, which really helps us to drive forward innovation.
Fantastic. Last thing, because I didn't realize that we already spoke to 20 minutes. Sorry about that. But the drupa, you are going to be a drupa. What are you going to present at drupa? Have you announced anything yet, or are you about to? I know that you had was it an open house last week or the week before?
What are we going to present? We will unveil a new concept and new products in the field of smart connected printing, which I personally am very excited about, because we've been working on it now for 2.5 years. The Gallus One.
It was nice to get it out, right?
Yeah, it's nice. It's really exciting to really move ahead and take the next step. The Gallus One of this innovation cycle, which we started 2.5 years ago, was the first product, of course, also including upstream and downstream. And now it's time to show the world what are our ideas and where we are heading with smart connected printing, what are the next steps. Of course, we are embedded in drupa in the Heidelberg booth, which I'm personally also very excited about it, because, you know, Heidelberg always has a very good setup at drupa, because it's a very important fair for the entire group.
So we have to wait to get more information till we get closer, I guess.
Don't need to wait too long anymore. It's just around the corner.
I know. It's I'm writing articles almost every day about drupa, and I think I'm down to about 65 days before drupa. So we are getting closer. That's for sure. Dario, appreciate totally that you took the time to talk to me here on INKISH. It was a great conversation, and I hope I asked some okay questions,
very
because
nice.
I can hear
Very
that
nice
you're really
questions.
into your things. Okay, but thank you and goodbye.
Thank you. Bye bye.